So here's where the rubber meets the road, and that is using Windows File Explorer to copy and move files and folders around. Now, you could do one of two things. You can start up Explorer just by itself, maybe click over here or press the Windows key E shortcut. But since I want to get into the Project Files folder, I think it's going to be easier just to double click it here on the desktop. And there we go. And let's double click on the Chapter 4 folder. And let's go into this folder called Moving Files. When you look at this, you can see we have all these different files, different types, Excel, Word, and so on, but we don't have any subfolders in here. So let's create a subfolder. There are several ways to do that. Probably the easiest way is just click on this icon over here, New Folder, and you can see it gives you the shortcut, Control-Shift-N. Another way is you can go to the Home tab, and in the Home tab you could click in the middle here, New Folder. One other way is you can put your mouse pointer anywhere here in the list, click the right mouse button, and choose New Folder. That's probably the longest way around it. So whichever way you want is fine. I'll click this folder here. Now when you do that, see down on the bottom it gives you a new folder, and by default it doesn't know what to call it, so it calls it New Folder. And you see it's highlighted, which means that it's waiting for you to type in a name. So I'll call this maybe Important Stuff. Now you know you're done typing, but the computer doesn't know you're done typing, so you have to seal in the name. Just press the Enter key, and that seals in the name. And you see by default, folders get listed at the top. To make this a little easier, let's sort in alphabetical order. And put your mouse pointer up here on that name bar and click. So now we're sorted again from Aardvarks down to Zanzibar. And let's say I want to take this brochure, you see it's a Word document, and I just want to move it into Important Stuff. All you have to do is click it and drag up. And you see you've got this little ghosted out image. And when your mouse pointer is up here on Important Stuff, it's highlighted. You can see the little pop-up help that's telling you you're moving it. Now let go of the mouse button. And you see it's gone here. Let's double click on Important Stuff. And you see there it is. Great. And there's only one file in there because that's all we did, right? We created the folder, we put a file in there. Now we want to move back up one level to the Moving Files folder. Two ways to do that. Up here in the breadcrumbs, you could click Moving Files. And also, and this is something that's new to Windows 8, is you see this little up arrow. Click that, and that also moves you back up. Let's say you wanted to move more than one file. Maybe you wanted to move a few of them. I'll grab this amortization schedule. See, it's a PDF, so you know it's an Adobe Acrobat file. And I want to move that, and I also want to move this Cloud Services file. So instead of moving one and the other, what I'm going to do is I'll put my mouse pointer on there. I'll hold the Control key down. With the Control key held down, I'll click it. And now you can let go of the Control key. You notice that you have two files selected. And again, you can just drag in there. They've moved. Double-click Important Stuff. And there they are. There are those files that we moved. Again, let's go back up to the Moving Files folder. Now, when you drag files, you actually have a choice of, do you want to move the file, or do you want to copy the file, or do you want to create a shortcut? And shortcuts aren't all that useful when you're simply moving files around from one subfolder to another subfolder, but they might be useful, let's say, if you want to put a file on the desktop, for example. So we'll talk about shortcuts a little later on. But let's do this. Maybe I want several files. Sometimes when you select several files, you want a whole bunch in a row, and sometimes you want kind of individual ones. You want to cherry pick them. We kind of did that before. When you have this file, this calendar file selected, again, hold down the Control key. With the Control key, just click, keep holding the Control key down, and now click any old files that you want there. And you see I selected a bunch. It doesn't matter which files you select, but you notice that they're not all in a row. So by holding down the Control key, I can cherry pick which files I want selected. And then just click anywhere and you'll deselect. But what if you do want a bunch in a row? I'll grab this competitive analysis, and this time I'm going to hold down the Shift key. When I hold down the Shift key, let's say I click on this snarkily named pie chart, and when I shift click that, Now I have a whole bunch of files in a row. So whether you're moving files, copying files, creating shortcuts, whichever way you go, that's how you can select multiple files in different ways. So now that we have a bunch of files selected, put your mouse pointer anywhere in the selected area, it doesn't matter where, and this time, instead of holding down the left mouse button, click and hold down the right mouse button. And now with the right mouse button held down, drag into Important Stuff, let go of the mouse button, and now you've got this little pop-up menu. And this says, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to copy them? Do you want to move them? Do you want to create shortcuts? Or if you just change your mind, you didn't want to do that at all, click Cancel. Let's choose Move. You notice that Move is bolded. Let me move the mouse pointer out of the way, make that more obvious. The reason that's bolded is to say that if you were to drag with the regular old left mouse button and wouldn't bother with the right mouse button, Move is the default. Move is what would happen. So I'll click that anyway. There, and you see they're gone. Let's go into Important Stuff, double click, and there are all those files. Let's say we wanted to move all of these files back. We can select all of them, and there's a few ways of doing it. Because we have some empty space down here, you can put your mouse pointer down here, hold down the left mouse button, and drag. Notice I'm dragging a box. And whichever files this box touches, they get selected. I'll deselect because I want to show you a couple other ways of doing that. If you want to select all begins with the letter A, and this is something that works in just about every single Windows program, is if you press on your keyboard Control A will select all stuff. Let's say if you open one of these Word documents and you press Control A, it'll select all the text. If you open up one of the Excel files and you press Control A, it'll select all the cells in Excel. But there is another way that you can select all, and that is if you go up to the Home menu and you click Select All. That's yet a third way of selecting everything. Now let's do this. Again, put your mouse pointer on the highlighted area, hold down the right mouse button, and drag up here in the breadcrumbs until Moving Files is highlighted. It might be a little hard to see behind that little ghosted out image, but that's all right. You can see the little blue pop-up help that tells you move to Moving Files. Let go of the right mouse button, choose Move here, and they've all moved back. Click in there, and now you see everything is there again. That's all well and good, but I want to show you my favorite technique, and that is moving files and folders around with the Windows clipboard by cutting, copying, and pasting. Now, you may know this already, but if not, I think you're going to find this very useful. Windows has a temporary storage feature called the clipboard, and it's been that way in all versions of Windows, no matter how far back you go. And there are three functions that the clipboard can do. The first function is to cut, and cutting takes data that you have selected. Could be files in Windows Explorer that we were looking at. It could be a paragraph in a Word document. It could be cells in an Excel file, just about anything. And it removes the data, kind of like you've deleted it, but it doesn't completely destroy it. It puts the data in the Windows clipboard. And the shortcut for that is Control X. Kind of similar to cutting is copying. And copying takes whatever data you have selected, files, text, whatnot. It leaves it untouched. It leaves the document or the file untouched, but it simply puts a copy of that in the clipboard. And the shortcut for that is Control C. Now, once you've cut or copied, you have stuff, you have data in the clipboard. And keep in mind, the clipboard holds only one thing at a time. I kind of think of it like a photocopy machine, because if you put something in a photocopy machine, you could make one duplicate, you could make several duplicates, but you can only have one thing on the glass of the copy machine at a time, and the Windows clipboard works the same way. So once you've cut or copied, to insert, you paste, and pasting inserts the content of the clipboard wherever you happen to be, wherever the mouse happened to click, and the shortcut for that is Control V. Now, if you take a look at the lower left corner of your keyboard, you'll notice that X, C, and V are all right next to each other. And if you're wondering, well, gee, how am I supposed to remember that? Well, copy begins with the letter C. Well, so does cut, but some people say that the X kind of reminds them like a pair of scissors. And V is paste. Why not Control P? Well, because Control P will usually print something. And these methods of cutting, copying, and pasting works everywhere in Windows. So let's take a look. I'll grab a few files, kind of like what we did before. I'll grab a file. It doesn't matter which you take. I'll grab brochure, it's competitive analysis, maybe financial, maybe a PowerPoint file, and I'll take that photo. And now I'm going to cut. So I'll press Control X on the keyboard. And you notice that it hasn't actually removed them, hasn't deleted them, but if you notice that the icons here are kind of grayed out. So the reason for that is, let's say you change your mind, you decide, I really don't want to cut those and paste them somewhere. Don't worry, these files won't be deleted. If you go and do something else, the files will stay right where they are. But let's double click on this important stuff folder. And now press Control V to paste. And now they've been pasted. And you notice that if we go back to the Moving Files folder, brochure, competitive analysis, whatever else you selected, they're no longer there. Now let's try copying. I'll take maybe the Swiss bank account, and I'll maybe hold the Shift key down and click Training Manual, just so that I have the first file that I selected is selected, and when I Shift click this, they all become selected. And now I'll copy. I'll press Control C to copy. I'll double click on important stuff, and now I'll paste. I'll press Control V, and now they've been pasted. Now if I go back up to the Moving Files folder, you notice they're still there. Because I didn't cut them, I copied them. So if you're comfortable with cutting, copying, and pasting files, that is most of the battle in managing your files and folders. Practice that a little bit if you need. It's really going to pay off, I guarantee.